Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever it is that you are, we're thankful that you're here with us. I am Brad Franklin, creative content writer here in Chesterfield County, and I am really excited to get this thing off the ground and honored, honestly, to be able to say that Chesterfield Behind the Mic is on the air. We're going to get to a great topic, great first episode for you here in just a second, but I want to start real quick just with just a quick explanation, sort of like what you can come to expect from us over these next few weeks and months and things going forward. This podcast is essentially about you. It's a story of Chesterfield. It's the stories of the people of Chesterfield from every corner of the county and back again. We're going to cover anything and everything. We're going to talk about things that you need to know. We're going to talk about things that you might want to know. We're going to tell you some cool stories that maybe you hadn't heard before, maybe things you didn't know you needed to know or know that you wanted to know. We're going to inform you, we're going to entertain you, and hopefully at the end of the day, our mission here is to make sure that we have a podcast, we have a show that is representative of the people of Chesterfield. And I honestly can't think of a better story to be representative of Chesterfield than the one we're going to talk about today. I'm really happy to be joined by Bill Fiege, who is the general manager, head coach of the Chesterfield Little League team that just finished up its run to the Little League World Series. 13 exceptional little girls who did an incredible thing. They weren't just the District 5 champions. They weren't just the state of Virginia champions. They weren't just the Southeast region champions. They finished second at the Little League World Series in Greenville last month. A heck of a ride for them. And Bill, thank you very much for being on the show. How are you?
Great, Brad. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I mean, I guess we normally with stories we like to start in the beginning, but I actually don't want to start in the beginning. I want to start now. Has it sunk in yet that you guys had the success that you had? Have you gotten tired of talking about it yet? What's it been like these last few weeks since you got home and you had the big welcome home event and things have become normal? How's that been to sort of adjust to life after the World Series?
Talking about the 13 girls and the experience they had this summer will never get old. It was just an honor to be their coach, to see the run that they made. We knew we'd have a good team. We knew we had opportunities to have success.
Right.
And to be second in the country was just surreal.
Yeah. You guys, this was a group that had been together a long time. And that's one of the cool parts of this story, right? Is that it's not just that, hey, these kids came together and had a great summer. It's that these girls have been working toward this sort of goal for a long time. When did you first know that this team was special, that this group was special? And when did it sort of click for you that you had the potential to sort of do the things that you guys were able to do?
I'd coached all 13 girls at some time over the last 6 years. It's actually the first time that all 13 were together as one team. Mm-hmm. 6 of the girls were on the 2019 10U state championship team. But we had over 50 girls play Chesterfield Little League this summer. We chose 13 to be on the all-star team, and they started practicing in the beginning of June. I could see that we had pitching. I could see that we had good defense. Right. I could see that we had hitters. And when you put those in combination, we knew we had an opportunity.
When did you start to feel the community kind of getting behind you? When did that you sort of cross that Rubicon from, hey, we're going to some tournaments, and all of a sudden now we're having success and people know what's going on with us?
When we went to the Southeast Regional in Warner Robins, Georgia, all the games were on ESPN+.
Okay.
And so everybody had more of an opportunity to watch. The games when we played in Coburn, Virginia for the state championships and the District 5s, more on Facebook, more the parents, grandparents who are watching. But then you get your everyday, Chesterfield citizen, and even those outside of Chesterfield started to take notice when we were in Warner Robins.
Yeah. Now, as a coach, you're obviously really excited for your team, and you're digging into it, trying to figure out how you can, make this better, make that better, and what can we do to make sure we can take this thing as far as we can take it. Right. But then you also had the piece of it that's as a parent, right? That's where you're not just looking at it as a team, you're also feeling the things the same way a lot of the folks in the stands are. You obviously feel that same sense of just you want it so bad for them, as well as, you want it as for the collective group. What was it like to be a parent in that situation, to try to coach the team, but also to manage it in terms of your own family and your own daughter?
Yeah, it's a great question. One thing I've always hoped for when I was coaching my own kid is that when all the players are out on the field, whether it's a regular season Little League game, a travel game that I coach, or in this experience, that no one really knows who my kid is, that I treat them all equally well, that I give them all constructive feedback, coach them where they are. But to see my kid, my youngest daughter, Erica, be able to play on the stage that she was able to, it will be something I never forget, and very proud as a dad for sure.
How many weeks away from home? You guys left. Did you come back for it at any point? Like, what was it?
We did.
I would actually like you to kind of explain to the folks, like, how long were you actually on this journey through?
So we started practicing in early June. End of June, we played in the District 5 Championship, which was about a 5-6 day tournament hosted by Tuckahoe Little League. Great host. Appreciate the great support they gave to all the kids. We beat Atlee in the championship game. We then had the July 4th holiday off. And then we went to Coburn, Virginia for 5-6 nights to play in that tournament where we beat McLean in the final.
Cool.
We then had about 10 days to figure out how we were getting to Georgia and get the hotel reservations. We were there about 7-8 nights in Warner Robins, Georgia. We won that tournament, and now we got to figure out, we got to go to Greenville, which was great. We were the only one of two teams that didn't have to fly.
Right. Because
which was great.
For folks who don't know, this was normally in Oregon, right?
It's been in Oregon the previous 25 years.
So you hit the lottery, right? Because you got the team at the year when you could just go to Greenville and not have to fly to Oregon.
It might not have been as hot in Oregon. I don't know. I mean, it's been hot in Oregon this year, but it was great to be in Greenville because more of our fans, more people from Chesterfield were able to come and watch, which was great. And then we were in Greenville from August the 9th and got home the night of the 18th.
And so you go through this run, and that obviously, with any sort of tournament, and when you go that deep, there are going to be highs and lows. And you guys, had a huge comeback in one game. You had a COVID test that forced one team to pull out.
That's right.
Then you had a loss, and you had to come back from it. When you think back on the run, especially in Greenville, what really stands out to you most? Is it that the girls got the opportunity to showcase their skills on ESPN? Was it the camaraderie among the group? What really stands out to you now looking back on it?
They weren't afraid of the moment. They stepped up and stepped on the field and produced as well as I ever could have imagined.
Right.
As I joked before, sometimes the parents will take video behind home plate, and that's the video that they have.
Right.
There were cameras behind third base, first base, outfield. There were cameras everywhere.
Yeah.
And the kids showed off for the cameras a little bit. They'd come in and they know the camera was on them, so they'd make a symbol to the camera or do some type of dance. They put Gatorade cups in their ears. And then when they were on the field, they just played, and they didn't let the moment get too big for them.
Right. I think one of the things about sports that really sort of resonates with people is not just the lessons that kids learn. Yeah. We obviously know about that. But it's also sometimes the lessons, those of us on the outside learn watching them. And I think for a lot of people around Chesterfield to watch that team, to see them have, put Chesterfield in that position, a place, that it hadn't been before.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you as a coach to be able to take this community with you and to be able to represent them on such a huge stage?
It was just unbelievable. I was talking to, I work at John Tyler, Becoming Brightpoint Community College, and I was talking to one of our security guards about sports, and he started talking about our Chesterfield run, not knowing that I was the coach of the team. So I think a lot more people watched than we even know and imagine. And people were just rallying around these girls and rooting for them because they were from Chesterfield.
Right.
They go to school here, they live here, they play here. And for them to have had that opportunity representing their community, it's just something they'll always remember.
In terms of, you mentioned, you guys got done on a Wednesday. By Friday, you're here at Manchester High School, which I should have mentioned. We're here at Manchester High School. But you're here at Manchester. You got families, you got board of supervisors, members, you've got a whole lot of folks out. Did it become more surreal when you're kind of going through that process? Or you come home and all of a sudden there's this big fanfare and everything, or was that just what was that moment like? I guess is what I'm asking.
Well, it was just the support was amazing, the care. We could have just come home and just
gone back to life.
Gone back to life. It was our own experience,
right.
But the appreciation from our board of supervisors, our school board members, our superintendent, to recognize the girls for their accomplishment, for their achievement, for putting Chesterfield even more on the map than it already is, being on all the ESPN networks over the prior 2 weeks. Chesterfield was highlighted, and for them to be recognized and appreciated for doing that was just an awesome honor for the girls that I don't think they'll fully comprehend until they're a little bit older and look back at the signed softballs that each of them have from each of the girls on the team and those types of things.
That's one thing I think too about, you were gone so long and they were together so much that, the bonds and the sort of the camaraderie and the friendships and things. And I know that as a coach, you love to see your players, that what's the old adage that you have to find a team that you can lose with before you can find a team that you can win with. What was the end of the tournament like for the girls and for you? The way it ended and that kind of thing. How hard was that?
We knew going in Oklahoma was a great team, and they beat us 9-1. Kind of took us out of our game early.
Mm-hmm.
But when we got on the bus afterwards, and the girls were upset, they wanted to win. I mean, win a national championship. How awesome would that have been?
Understandably, right?
But just told them how proud we were of them,
mm-hmm.
how they fought all the way to the end. They played. They did everything we asked. We had 3 expectations throughout the year: control what you can control,
mm-hmm.
Play as hard as you can, and have fun.
Mm-hmm.
And they did that every single time they stepped on the field, whether it was a practice or a game. They did everything we asked and more.
A lot of times, you think about, basketball teams that might play in the NCAA tournament, right?
Yeah.
They see an influx of applications, right? That sort of attention, it comes back, right? In terms of this, going through this experience with them, I'm guessing everywhere you go, you kind of probably talk about this a lot. And it probably will be for a while. But in terms of what do you think the legacy is of this team and what they did this summer, and what does that leave for people, not just in the softball community of Chesterfield, but in Chesterfield as a whole? What do you think your legacy is for this team?
Well, I hope a lot more people get involved in softball, baseball. Chesterfield Little League has been great, but if you're in the Central Chesterfield Little League, or even if you're listening to this outside the county,
mm-hmm.
Getting involved with your community.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of kids now get involved in travel sports. I'm involved with travel sports. I believe in travel. However, Little League community
mm-hmm.
sports enable you to play with your neighbors, play with your schoolmates, play with those who you see most often. And as with anything in life, there's some kids who are and people who are better at something than others.
Mm-hmm. Right.
There are a lot of things that a lot of people are better at than me at.
Right.
I like to think I'm a pretty good softball coach,
right.
and providing an opportunity.
Results would say that you are.
But providing the opportunity for these kids was something I was able to do.
Right.
These kids being able to play and at the level they were is because of the time and energy they put in
mm-hmm.
to the game,
mm-hmm.
And being able to share that with their friends and neighbors is something that's very important to me, and I hope they take with them as they start developing their families, developing their careers, that
mm-hmm.
they realize how important community really is
right.
In society.
Now, in terms of the bigger picture, right? So you go and you have this summer, and now it's it is sort of returning to life. Have you heard from the girls, like what was their reemergence into regular life like? Now that since their run,
they started school.
Really quickly, right? Like
real
the next
quick.
week.
I mean, they started the next week back in. Several of the girls are on volleyball teams.
Mm-hmm.
They're now immersed into that. They've gotten re-engaged into their travel teams.
Right.
We had 5 different travel teams represented with these girls, so they're not all continuing on the same team. Actually, it's the last time they'll all be together as one team. My wife and I were talking the other day about sometime in November. They haven't heard this yet. It might be the first time they hear it on the podcast.
Breaking news,
guys. Breaking news is to, sometime in November, perhaps around Thanksgiving time, is to get the families and everybody back together and just go get a nice dinner somewhere.
Yeah.
When we were in Greenville, the girls were separated from their families. I was separated from my family. We were in a COVID bubble.
Yeah.
But just getting them all together 3-4 months afterwards and just truly celebrate the success and just kind of keep them together, I think, is an important thing.
Yeah. All right. Last couple questions here. First off, I'm going to ask you the one that you don't want to answer, because having talked to you and kind of gotten a sense of who you are, the idea of talking about yourself is hard. But I'm going to ask you to talk about yourself for just a second,
okay.
just a little bit.
Okay.
What did it mean to you, like for you to be involved and to for a lot of parents, the idea of being a coach is it's an idea that they would they would love to have the time, they would love to have the opportunity. But to take it this far and to go as to do what you guys did, what's it mean to you, and how in the week since then? What's it sat like in your heart and in your soul? What's it mean?
So my dad was my Little League coach, way back 37 years ago. When I was 9 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I was 11 then. 39 years ago, showed my age a little bit, and my math skills. He was president of a community college, and he made time to be my coach.
Yeah.
I'm vice president of a community college, so followed in his footsteps
Right.
career-wise, just
Right.
kind of happened by accident. And I have a boss, Ted Raspiller, who's been great. to me, coaching is very important. It's important to volunteer in your community. To then have an opportunity to coach, and I started when my kids, my oldest daughter was 6, coaching her machine pitch team.
Okay.
Never thought that we'd go to a World Series. I mean, we just wanted to get a hot dog and a soda after the game, right? I mean, that's just go have fun.
Right.
And then you see the talent that starts progressing, and that team that when my daughter was on, they won a state championship this year. Larry Stone was the coach of that team. There's been a lot of success in Chesterfield, a lot of people seeing that this could happen. And we just had the great fortune of having the opportunity to have the team to go there. And so as a coach, it was just an honor representing all the coaches in Chesterfield, Chesterfield Little League, to be able to take a team where we did.
Here, fun fact for you, my dad was in radio. So
very
that's
cool.
One of those things.
Okay.
All right, last one. If you have an opportunity to share a message from the team, from you, from everybody, just to Chesterfield, what would you say to the community?
We had no idea exactly how much support was given to us from afar. Certainly the parents, the families are engaged. They're going crazy at the games. But the event that happened the Friday night here at Manchester High School from the Board of Supervisors and others, just hearing people in the streets. Last night I had a travel softball practice, and a couple people came up to me, hey, loved watching the girls. The biggest piece that comes out of it is I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. At Southeast Regional, the gentleman came up to us who was directing the tournament, said, I've been doing this a long time, baseball and softball, and you all had the most well-behaved, respectful kids we've ever had at one of our tournaments. And we got similar compliments in Greenville. That's more special than anything else. They're representative of this community, and the community came out and supported us, and we were just glad we were able to represent them very much in how they supported us.
Good deal. Bill Fiege, thank you very much for your time, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brad.
We are joined now by Rosemary Fitzgerald, who is the president of the Chesterfield Little League. And I'm really happy for you to be here, Rosemary, because I think it's a cool kind of bookend. On the one hand, obviously, Bill lived it, breathed it. I'm curious from the community side of it, what it was like. But first, talk to me a little bit about your background with Chesterfield Little League. How did you get involved in it, and how long have you been doing it? Talk to me a little bit about sort of your time frame of being involved.
I've got 3 kids in the league. All play baseball. I guess we've been with the league for about 4 years now.
Right.
And then back in the fall, we kind of said, my husband's coached all 4 years. I've done the team parent thing, and they're just kind of helping out here and there. And we said, maybe we should join the board of directors, help out a little more. Little did we know. We'd jump in,
Sometimes that's the way it works.
All in. Been out here working on the fields and helping with different things. And back in, I guess, May, I think, our current president needed to step down.
Right.
And so I kind of just slid in and took over. So it's a new thing. I went from being uniform coordinator to president of the league, and then
there they are.
We are in the World Series.
Yeah. Now, take me through your experience of the World Series. What was that like for you, since May, right, to be in charge of it, right? But what was it like for you to sort of to go through that from your point of view?
Early on, I didn't know a lot of the girls. We had seen them out playing. I'd seen them at practices. I'd seen some of the coaches and whatnot, but didn't know them as well personally, since we're all kind of on the baseball side. And my kids weren't on the same teams, but we'd seen them before. My son's like, oh, I've seen that one, or I've seen her, or whatever. And so, early on, it was just, hey, we need this paperwork. We need these forms filled out. We need these. And so I'm trying to coordinate with, a couple of the parents and whatnot, and making sure, I'm like, what do you need for funding and hotels and what, it's a lot of paperwork and a lot of just making sure all the, T's were crossed and the I's were dotted and whatnot. And when they told me, they won that, and it's like, oh, we're moving on to Georgia. We're moving on to this. So it was very fast paced, and I commend them for how well they just
handled it all.
And we worked with Dick's Sporting Goods to get some T-shirts in their store, which was awesome.
That's awesome.
They sold Little League World Series shirts in the store, and then. We obviously couldn't go to Georgia, but we were able to see all of that. We didn't miss a single game, and it's just constantly posting on Facebook and sending out emails, making sure people knew how to watch the games, that type of thing. And then we were in Greenville for all the games, and that was just such an experience to be down there, to take my kids down to see.
Yeah, I bet. What was it? I would imagine too, to kind of be behind the scenes of all the logistics, and then to be there. Yeah. How rewarding was that for you? In your first year. Right?
Yep.
Several months, barely, right, of being involved with it, really, at that level. What was that like for you?
It was a really awesome experience. I mean, it's a stage that most people don't get to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not only is it just an amazing field and an amazing facility. I mean, everything was done. They had a huge store with all the teams represented. You could buy stuff, but to just be there and see these kids that we see on our field right here at Manchester High School,
right
down there in Greenville on ESPN, and and my kids waving. I have friends back home sending me screenshots of my kids on TV, and they just think that's so cool. And Deanna Diaz, whose daughter is on the team, she's our VP of softball. She took a foul ball that my daughter had caught and went and got it signed by all the players.
Oh, that's great.
And she's got it in her room, and she just thinks that's the coolest thing. She's only 5. She doesn't know yet, but she gets a little bigger. That's going to be, a huge souvenir. So
absolutely.
To see that and then come back home and have friends who know that we're part of this asking questions. Oh, we watched it. And,
right.
So it was a really cool thing to be down there and get to be part of it. And the energy and the excitement in the stands there was phenomenal.
I bet. I can't even imagine with the speaking of energy, right? I asked Bill this question too about, sort of the way that sometimes when teams have success, there's a tendency for something back home to get bigger, right? I can imagine that you guys are going to have a lot of attention that comes from the success of this team and their journey and everything. Have you seen any of that yet? Is that still to come? What's it been like since they had that run for Chesterfield Little League?
I think there's definitely been some. I mean, there's been several collegiate and major league teams that have reached out.
Oh, cool.
To the league and to the team saying, hey, do you want to come be recognized? Do you want to come, get some free tickets and watch a game? That type of thing. So I think that's an awesome thing for them to be a part of and see that it is bigger than them. There are people watching them and seeing their success and wanting to celebrate with them. And all of the other presidents of all of the other local Little Leagues in District 5 were on a group text.
Okay.
And as the whole tournament in Greenville was going on, I'm getting all these texts from all the other presidents going, oh, look at that. That's awesome. We're watching, So all of the other leagues, even though they weren't part of it, still felt represented by being part of Virginia and being part of that. So it really was bigger than just, this league and this team.
Yeah, cool. Now, in terms of like I said, you've only been on this, involved in this. How do you top that, right? Like what's next, right?
Baseball and softball next year. We're going all the way.
Everybody goes at once.
All in.
Last couple for you. First, on the community thing, I talked to Bill about this too. Obviously back home it was a huge thing, right? And I mean, I know in our office, it just kept spreading like wildfire. And I mean, I started in my job and it was something that, it was like all we talked about at the quote unquote water cooler. What was that community piece like for you when you're dealing with all the logistics and stuff? What was it like for you to see the community kind of rallying behind them? What was that like for you?
Well, it's interesting, the game ended, and of course we didn't come out victorious in that last game, but we were still, and all of a sudden we had like 10 different people trying to run 10 different directions with, I can get them to a Squirrels game and I can do this and I can do this. And, I was like, okay, we got to bring it down. I'm glad everyone's excited, but we can't book them out for the next 2 weeks every night. But it was awesome to see the excitement and hey, I want to celebrate. We want to do this. We want to do a parade and this and that. And even just, last night I was up here, a friend of mine who their kids have never played ball with us before joined the league, and she said one of the coolest things about watching the whole tournament was during the final game when Coach Fiege was on the mic and he was just being so encouraging with the team. And even when they weren't winning, even when his passion, his energy, how he spoke to the kids, he spoke to the girls. She said that was one of the greatest lessons that her kids learned watching was just how he spoke to the team and how they responded to him.
Cool. Last one. I joked a second ago about, what's the next step, but what do you guys got going on? What's the next sort of thing that you guys are doing? Do you what's the next, like, hey, let's get together and do X? What's the next thing on the calendar for you?
Well, that's one of those we're kind of running in 10 different directions as well. We've got some local fundraisers coming up just to keep improving the fields. If we've got these, all the kids should be playing on the best fields. Right. But, we're doing field improvements. We're actually painting some around here. We're working on some drainage issues on some of the fields, and we've got a new uniform vendor. It's just there's a lot of things that we're trying to do to constantly improve the league and getting people involved. We've got new concessions stuff going on, and just getting people involved, I think, is the biggest thing. Everybody wants to come out and play, but not everybody wants to put in the work to make those things happen. Right. So slowly people are starting to come out of the woodwork and say, hey, I can come line the fields. I can volunteer in concessions.
Funny how that works out.
Yeah. So we're kind of using that to advantage a little bit. So, if you want to see your teams do well, we got to all these coaches are volunteering their time, so they're not paid, so
yeah.
So there's a lot of good things coming. Our league's bigger than it's ever been for fall ball before, which is phenomenal. Awesome. Bigger than we expected. We had to recruit more coaches and more fields because it's
good problem to have.
For sure. Get these kids out playing, Well,
Rosemary, thank you very much for being with us today. I appreciate you giving us some time.
Definitely. Thank you.
Each podcast, we're going to try to close out with what I'm calling the wrap, which is our chance to kind of give you some information that you might, need to know. First, I want to start talking to you about 988 and 10-digit calling. Now, don't stop watching or listening right now. Soon, in the 804 area code, we're going to all have to start using 10-digit phone numbers. Now, the reason for that is actually a really good one. The FCC last year put together a plan to have a 988 number for the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. So much like 911 or 311, so that you can just dial 988 if you need help. In order to do that, there were some 80-some local exchanges that have to, in order for that 3-digit to go through to the hotline, you now have to dial 10 digits. So soon, when you dial 7 digits and you get that message that says your call can't be completed as dialed, that's why, okay? So you want to make sure that you dial your 10-digit number. Sometime in October, that's going to kick in, and you're going to want to try to do that as much as you can without driving yourself kind of crazy. All right, there's also Preparedness Month. This is September. This is usually, in Central Virginia at least, when we get the most of the storms, whether it's, Hurricane Ida a few weeks ago, right? We caught the remnants of that. Thankfully it wasn't as bad as Fred a few years ago in terms of spinning off tornadoes and all that fun stuff. But this is the time to know, do I have flashlights? Do I have batteries? Do I have water? Do I have canned goods? This is the time. You want to be prepared. The thing about forecasts is that they are forecasts, right? They can change, and they can change quickly. So make sure that this is the time for you to assess what your situation is and make sure that you are prepared. September is Preparedness Month, and so every year I think, folks, this is the time that you need it, and this is the time that you should look into it. So, all right, I want to first off say you can give us a follow on social media, all right? On Twitter, it's Chesterfield VA. On Instagram, it's Chesterfield Virginia, all one word. My thanks to our director, Martin Stith, my producers, Vernon Freeman and Matt Boyce. I also want to give a special shout out to Bill Fiege and Rosemary Fitzgerald for being our first guest on this podcast. The first, but hopefully not the last. We'll see how that works out. I also want to say a special thank you to Bill Carlson over at Parks and Rec, and also to Teresa Bonifas and Susan Pollard from Communications and Media for having the trust and faith to make this thing happen and get this off the ground. So yeah, with that, that's one episode in the books. For all of us here in Chesterfield County, thank you very much for making us a part of your day. We'll see you soon. Take care.